What's up, guys? It's Eric. Something a little different today. When I first started to get interested in shooting film and became interested in shooting large format photography specifically, I went looking for information online and found that there really wasn't as much as I would have expected. I was really disappointed to find out that there just really wasn't much on YouTube. Most of the content I found was either, pretty poorly done or dealing with things that were way too advanced for me, just trying to break into large format photography. The exception to this rule was Ben Horne's channel. Ben Horne, if you're not familiar with him, is a large format photographer from the American Southwest, and he takes his 8x10 camera out into these beautiful parks, primarily Death Valley and Zion, and does these video journals on these 10-day long trips where he takes these 8x10 images. His videos are incredibly well done. They boast some really, really spectacular production value. He puts a ton of work into them, and they're fantastic. So if you're not familiar with Ben, pause this video right now, find his link down in the show notes, and go check out his content. You won't be disappointed, I absolutely promise. Today I'm going to bring you a conversation I had with Ben a couple of days ago relating to large format photography, film in general, his channel, a lot of different stuff. We covered a bunch of different things. I really hope you guys enjoy it, whether you're familiar with him or not. It was on Skype, and it's the first sort of interview I've ever done, so it could be a little bit rough, but yeah. So without further ado, Ben Horne. So we made it. We made this happen. How are you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing fantastic. I don't want to brag, but it's like 75 degrees here in San Diego today, and there's not a cloud in the sky.
It's almost 75 degrees here in upstate New York. I think we're like 50 degrees short right now. The sun is shining, though. So it's a beautiful day, at least as far as how it looks. I guess I wanted to start. First of all, thank you for doing this. Thank you for coming in and doing this interview. You were, just to get this out of the way, you were probably the first... So you and Ted Forbes were like the two first film photographers I found on YouTube when I decided that I wanted to kind of investigate it and get into it. And I started watching your videos. You had already kind of advanced to the more advanced stuff by that point, the higher quality looking videos. And I plugged my headphones into my cell phone and watched them in bed and annoyed my lady. So I just wanted to get that out of the way right off the bat. For anybody watching this or listening to this who doesn't know who you are, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself?
So basically, these days I shoot 8x10 view camera, all color landscape photography, and I've been doing that since about 2009 or so. That was when the economy wasn't doing so good, so I kind of started taking some time off of work and started to go on some extended shooting trips. Right about the same time, I decided that I kind of wanted to shoot film, and it's just kind of become a thing now, which is kind of cool. Where I'll just go on several trips a year, going to the same places over and over and over and over again, but somehow coming up with something a little different each time. But it's really fun stuff. It's kind of demanding in some ways, but relaxing in other ways. So it makes it kind of quite enjoyable.
I guess the immediate question would be, so you shoot 8x10, which is the most convenient and time efficient way to do photography, from what I understand. How did that transition take place? Walk me through going from, I assume you started initially with digital, and walk me through your transition from digital to film and then to 8x10 to where you are right now.
So I had, well, basically my first digital camera, it was one of the floppy disk cameras from Sony. It was a third of a megapixel. I forget how many pictures you get on a floppy disk. It wasn't very many, but I was kind of doing a little bit of 35 millimeter at times. Right when digital,
a 3.5-inch floppy, one of those.
Yeah, yeah. I'm seriously. I mean, they were really slow to write. It was basically a video camera that took stills and put them on a floppy disk. It was a $700 camera. Yeah, it's kind of like something that really was not necessarily meant to do that, but kind of. But it was state of the art at the time. It was cool and everything. And then that's when kind of the digital camera started getting better and better and better. And eventually I ended up with the Canon's first interchangeable lens digital SLR camera, the D30. That was 3 megapixels, so pretty big jump up.
Yeah,
that was
serious business.
Yeah, it was about a $3,000 camera at the time.
Okay.
And now you could probably get them on eBay for like $50 or something like that, if that. But now I kind of started riding the wave of all these like Canons that were coming out, and it was fun. But at the same time, when I was out taking pictures, I didn't feel like things were turning out quite the way that I wanted it to, and I thought maybe it's something with the technology, the camera. I don't know what it was, but a friend of mine, seeing that I was doing a lot of landscape stuff, suggested, why don't I go and just get myself a 4x5 camera? So at first I thought she was joking, like, first of all, what is a 4x5 camera? I don't know what that is. But so I went ahead and did some research, and I found a Toyo. It was a 45A2 field camera, really solid, built like a tank kind of camera. Got myself 2 lenses for it, and took that on my first dedicated solo landscape photography trip along with my digital setup. And now it's really just normal for me to go on solo landscape trips to the middle of nowhere, but going on the first trip's kind of weird, sitting there looking at the passenger seat, kind of like I'm really doing this. But I took the 4x5, I took the digital setup, and there's this one photo I set up on the 4x5. Super easy. I mean, it was just really kind of like a Zen sort of moment, setting up the camera, working with it. And then I pulled out the digital setup, and this was a really good digital camera. It was a 1DS3 from Canon, which was, like the state-of-the-art, high resolution, all that.
When would that have been, like, roughly?
That was in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, so then I set up that camera to try to take the same photo because I wanted to compare it. I wanted to see, digital versus film, all that. I kind of started getting this set up, and I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. And I just kind of put it back in my bag, and I didn't really use it for the rest of the trip. After doing that, I'm like, I guess I like shooting 4x5. It's gave me the results I wanted, maybe kind of work for the picture a little bit. And then a little bit, I think it was like 2 months later, I was already looking at 8x10s. And I don't know why, other than the fact that I always kind of wanted to shoot an 8x10 camera. And happened to find
you weren't spending enough on film. And
yeah,
you wanted to quadruple your costs.
It wasn't quite expensive enough. It wasn't quite heavy enough.
Yeah.
And in reality, I mean, I've drum scanned 4x5, and it's absolutely beautiful, the biggest print size that I've done. But at the same time, I just kind of wanted to like work with an 8x10. And I found a used ebony, a little bit of a sore subject right now because it kind of got destroyed on my last trip.
It's that, just real quick, and as an aside, that camera is broken now. It's
broken, but it's being fixed.
And well, I was going to say that sadly corresponds with ebony shutting down, right? They're
done. The timing could have been a little better, but
sure.
The great thing is that I've got a buddy who is amazing at doing woodworking stuff, and it's in his hands. He's rebuilding that camera right now, but
cool.
But that's a camera I've used since 2009. But kind of going through this whole thing of shooting film and just kind of deciding that I liked it, and then digital, which is great, but I wasn't liking the results I was getting with it. It had nothing to do with the fact that the quality difference between the two of them. It was really the fact that the film cameras made me work harder, and then that kind of showed in the final results, where I would kind of cut corners a little bit with digital. I'm like, I can make this work. I could do this. I could do that. But with the film, you really can't do that. So it just made me work harder, and that's the difference that I saw going to film.
I mean, especially in 2009, though, there had to be a pronounced difference in the quality of the final images when you got them back. I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, a decade ago, digital cameras, even today, compared to a large format camera, you're going to have a substantial difference in quality.
Yeah, it was about 20 megapixels back then, which is still really good by these standards. But back then,
that's what my camera is. So it's
yeah,
like 22.
But 20 megapixels back then was like an $8,000 camera. So yeah. So you can get the same quality for a lot less now. But yeah, it wasn't just a resolution thing. That's one of the things getting into large format. I thought, hey, maybe I wasn't happy with the technical side of digital. Maybe the technical side of that resolution and all that would be key. And it really is good, but it's more so the look of film that I found that I can't really replicate as much with a digital setup. So just the way it kind of responds to certain colors and stuff along those lines, that's something that is very unique to film.
I guess, so how would you quantify the look of film if you could put it into words? And I guess the difference between something like Actar or color negative film, and I know you shoot a ton of Velvia. How would you, if you could put that into words, what the look of film is, what would that be?
In the case of like Ektar, or a lot of the color negative films, um, and I think this just has to do with our experience of at least, when I was growing up, all the family pictures and stuff were all shot on film. So like the look of film is kind of like the look of a memory in a way. Where I find, at least with Ektar, it kind of has that like a, not really a nostalgic look, but just has a look more of a memory as opposed to reality, which is kind of cool. Velvia is different. Velvia is a little bit more literal as far as the way it translates to scene. I know that sounds weird because it's a high contrast, high saturation
No,
film,
it
but
makes sense. I think Velvia,
yeah,
to me, it reminds me more of digital photography than like
yeah, for
color
sure.
negative film does. Just in the
Yeah,
look. Maybe it's that the
yeah.
resolution of it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think it's just the way that it responds to maybe like the transitions between like highlights and shadows or something like that. But it responds to color differently than digital, especially like, the shadows will go kind of a little bit of a cooler tone, and it has a very interesting look to it, and that's why I kind of pick and choose which film I'm going to shoot for which scene, not just because of the contrast, but also kind of for the look of it. I prefer slide film because it's easier to scan. I mean,
Sure.
Ektar can be great at times, but other times you look at it, it's like, what is this? I don't know what I'm doing here. So it's a love-hate relationship with Ektar.
It's though.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask it. So you generally, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you go to like three locations primarily
pretty
over and
much.
over, or two big ones, right? Zion
Yeah,
and Death Valley.
yeah, for sure.
What is it about those places, and what is it about returning to the same spot over and over and over again, that you appreciate, that you enjoy, and do you have any plans to branch out? Are there any places you'd like to visit that you haven't?
Well, I think some of it has to do with proximity. In San Diego, I'm pretty close to Death Valley. I'm like 5 hours away.
Okay.
So I can drive there. It could be a type of thing where, like, after work, I could drive there and be there, yeah, midnight or so. But that's pretty close. Zion is 8 hours away. Both places, I mean, I like the fact that I get comfortable with an area as far as knowing the facilities, knowing the campgrounds. You go to a particular location within the park, you kind of explore it for a while, that kind of leads you to another area. And even though it's really to the same locations again and again, I usually come away with pretty different pictures each time because I kind of go back year after year because the locations actually do change a fair amount. Places like Death Valley in particular, some of the salt flats, one year they look completely different than the next year. So you can kind of go back and you get a general vibe for the place. You kind of know the local conditions, the patterns. In Death Valley, for example, basically it's a really long valley that runs north and south, and you have a really big mountain range that is on the western side, the Panamint Range, which is, you got like 11,000 foot tall peak, and then you're down, if you're at Badwater, at like 300 feet below sea level, and then you got mountains on the other side that are going to be like, I don't know, maybe like 7,000 feet, somewhere in that range. So you get some interesting atmospheric things that happen, but after going there for so many times, I'll kind of look at like whatever sunset's going on. You look at the clouds like, oh, these clouds are going to be gone by sunset, or it's going to be overcast. So you kind of learn to work with the area, kind of know what's going to happen. And also I think it's awesome because you'll learn to recognize when conditions are very unique. If I go to a place I haven't been to before, I might be seeing it in its absolute best conditions. I won't really know that it's special. I'll just be kind of like, that looks good. I might take a picture here, but not really knowing that, I should put emphasis in one area or another. And Zion is that way too. I mean, there's years that I've gone to Zion, and there's one of my favorite photos I shot there was back in 2013. And it's a tree I'd walked past so many different times before, never even noticed it before. I mean, I'm talking.
I think I know the photo you're talking
Yeah,
about.
it's kind of like the yellowy, greeny tree up against the kind of purple sandstone.
The one that you said you showed to everybody at work, and that was the one that people said in person was a lot. Is that the one that you said in person the slide is a lot more impressive than the scanned image? Is it the green tree popping? Or is that am I thinking of a different one?
It was kind of a lemon lime green tree up against kind of purpley sandstone. So that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I mean, the trail goes probably within about 40 feet of that tree, and I've walked past it, I don't even know how many times, but that particular time it had rained in the days before, so all this moss on the wall was nice and green, and then like that tree was in good peak color, even though typically I think fall color was really early that year. So I don't typically see that tree in fall color. So, but you just kind of, you know when it's special, so you just know to stop there and like, oh, I got to shoot this photo right now. And in some ways that makes it a lot easier just because of that familiarity with the location. But I do also like branching out. Earlier this spring, I went to Capitol Reef for the first time, and that's an area that's probably about I have like a 14-hour drive from San Diego, so it's a little further, but found some stuff I really like there. Actually, the picture on the cover of my book this year was from Capitol Reef, and I look forward to heading back there probably in the spring. And also, I like going on backpacking trips kind of in that area. So you go to one canyon on one trip, and you kind of learn about another canyon. You go there, so it's not like I'm going to the exact same area and standing in the exact same spot. Yeah.
I guess if I were to take a trip to one of those two places, if I were going to go to Zion or Death Valley, and my dad's been to Zion, I have friends who've been there. Which would you recommend, and how busy are they, just generally speaking? How overrun with other people?
So Zion can be very busy. Springtime, summertime, it's a zoo. Fall time, it's even pretty busy. Wintertime is nice and calm. So I was there during I don't know, a couple weeks back. I was there, and it was really enjoyable because there's not a lot of people there. You can kind of drive up the main canyon. But any of these places, it doesn't take very much to get off the beaten path. Usually, even when it's really, really busy in the fall, when I'll go to a place like Zion, I might run into like 5 or 6 photographers in some of the areas I end up going to, just because, and they're all usually people that I know, which is kind of cool, because typically people don't stray too far off the beaten path, and if you kind of take the time to explore, it's pretty good. But fall, I think, is the most photogenic. Winter is good. Death Valley is completely different. It's so vast, so wide open that you don't run into crowds there. I mean, unless you're at like a tourist pullout or something like that. When I went on my trip there this year, I went to some dunes that I hadn't even heard of before, and it was definitely kind of a 4-wheel drive, high ground clearance kind of thing to get to. And I didn't see anyone there. I wasn't expecting to see anyone there. I didn't even see any fresh tire tracks on the road. So you can find yourself some solitude pretty easily in either place, but Zion's more busy for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that as far as just walking off the beaten path, even I was at the Grand Canyon 2 winters ago, and there's just crowds of people along the guardrail, and then you walk, it's like a paved path, but you walk, a quarter mile on the paved path, and there's just nobody around you, because anything that requires just the smallest amount of effort, it's too much.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just too much for most people. I was gonna ask, so we went through the transition from digital to large format. So then here's my question: how did you get to YouTube? Like, how did that happen?
That's one of the things where I've been kind of, if there's something that people really aren't doing a lot of, I kind of find myself doing that, and then eventually I find people doing what I'm doing. And so even though I've had the YouTube channel for a really long time, I've been putting out the videos for a really long time, it's kind of become more of a thing recently, as far as people doing the, I don't like to use the word vlog. I don't know. There's something about it that
it's a good word.
I call them video. Yeah,
I'll use that word. Vlog.
I call it video journals because I don't know why. Maybe it's my trying to rebel against millennials. I don't know. Technically, I'm a millennial by 1 year.
Rebelling against millennials. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Hold on. Let's see. It is 2017. So I am 35.
Okay, so I'm going to be 34 next month, and I think technically you may be a millennial.
Yeah,
if you check the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
I think that you're right on the cusp of it.
I know.
I snuck in.
That's why I got to rebel. Even though here I am, I shoot a wood camera. I don't know. Yeah. But as far as the YouTube stuff, I mean, it really started early on as basically just a way of sharing the experience of going out on these solo trips. Initially, I did a written blog, and I would just get writer's block. I had a hard time typing about what I was doing. I felt like I was typing the same thing over and over again. And I just this little point and shoot camera, started recording some video. I didn't really take it very seriously. But now I really enjoy that aspect of it. Actually, when I come back from a trip, one thing that's awesome is, getting the film back, taking a look at that, but also, downloading all those pictures, all those videos to my computer, start throwing stuff together, throw some music behind it. It's just another kind of creative aspect.
So
And
like
I
Kevin
think it's
McLeod.
well, the other thing too is it's pretty fun just because I mean, landscape photography, there's a lot of downtime
Sure.
on those trips. And so there'll be a lot of times where I'm just sitting there killing time. And that's a really good time to do video. And it just keeps my mind busy, especially some of these areas where you're in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing to do. So it keeps the mind busy and kind of, yeah, so you don't realize, hey, I'm the crazy person out in the middle of nowhere and just knowing around for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah. No, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. I guess because I know the little point and click or point and shoot videos that you're talking about, because if you go back far enough in your channel, you'll find them, just wind
The
noise
classics.
and
Oh,
wobbly.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like my battery would die. I'd be like, I guess that's it for today.
yeah, yeah, that's
There's
pretty much
no,
how I
no
do
planning
things.
for that.
That's
Oh yeah.
that's my approach to it. It's like wing it and then just hope for the best. And if it doesn't work, it's like, well, I guess I'm not putting a video up this week. You've done some videos on this in the past, and it overwhelmed me every time I saw it. What do you bring with you on a trip? Because your production values have gotten kind of crazy. Like it's like a little, it's like a PBS documentary at this point. I want to know like what all do you bring with you?
So my primary video camera is a Nikon D750. So I like it because it's pretty compact for a full frame camera. It does really well in low light. I have three lenses for it. I have a 20 millimeter 1.8, which is my most used lens. I got a 50 millimeter 1.4. I got an 85 1.8. My mic is a Rode Stereo Video Mic X, which is it's kind of an expensive mic, but it does amazingly well in the wind. And you'll see when I post my Death Valley videos from this year, it was so windy, like my shirt's flapping in the wind and all that. You have no problem hearing what I'm saying. You'll hear the sound of wind, but I could, with my ears, hear the sound of the wind howling past the camera and the microphone. But it could still pick me up just fine. So really, really love that mic. I have a little tiny 0 series Gitzo tripod with a little Manfrotto ball head, so I can kind of hold it out in front of me for doing like the walking and talking shots. I have a slider that I use. I didn't use it on my Death Valley trip because I was too busy getting blown around, but made good use of that in Zion. I have a jib arm. I do have wireless mics that I don't really use in the field, just kind of for the other video stuff, but it all fits basically in one backpack. So
Okay.
I take around my scouting pack, which has my video kit if I'm just gonna look for stuff. And then if I find something good, I go back, grab my big backpack and shoot that. But yeah, it's kind of fun. I do enjoy doing some video clips every now and then where people kind of go, how'd that happen? Like I had one many years ago when I had my Forerunner trigger my jib arm. So I drove past it, the camera starts moving upward, just using a string and a magnet and stuff. So.
Do you still bring like the solar powered fridge and all that stuff with you for the downtime to keep everything cool and
Yeah. So I have a place like Death Valley. Yeah, I have a solar panel, and then I can hook that to a thermoelectric cooler. And
That's
it's
serious.
just kind of something that just kind of I think maybe this could work. So I bought like this little adapter and made it all work, and it does work really well. I didn't really have to use it very much when I was in Death Valley because it didn't really get very hot when I was there. But yeah, that thing works well. I just kind of wedge a solar panel in the roof of my truck, run the cord through the back window of the Forerunner. And yeah, I kind of like kind of making stuff work, because I don't even want to think about how much in terms of cost wise I have in the film that's in my cooler. I
Sure.
just don't want to fry it.
It's the cost of 8x10 film was already exorbitant. It's risen recently, hasn't it? Or am I crazy?
It has gone up a bit. It's for Velvia 50, you get 20 sheets in a box. It's about $400, give or take, for the film. Versus you could buy Provia for like two something. And that's just because the Velvia is not imported to the U.S., so you have to get it through other methods and stuff. But
Do
yeah,
they
it's
still
not cheap.
import Provia and 8x10 to the States?
Yeah, you can get Provia. I did buy some Provia before my fall trip just because there was some stuff I figured I could probably use it for. and you can get that. I mean, it's a decent film, but
I like
not as good
Provia.
for where I'm going.
Yeah. I do a lot of
Yeah,
photography with people in it,
yeah.
and when
For
I go
people, it's
hiking
good.
and stuff. And Provia, you get a certain amount of pop, and you also get, realistic skin tones and stuff like that. Everyone doesn't look like they just got sunburned.
Yeah, yeah.
What do
You
you?
avoid the old Oompa Loompa look. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a joke there somewhere, but I don't want to get into that. What what do you think about like the future of film, and where do you think where do you see Fuji going with their film stocks in the future?
I'm starting to think there might be a little bit of hope for that because Fuji has not been very responsive to photographers. I have a contact that within Fuji that I was saying like, hey, how about like a group buy thing, kind of like the way Ilford does it. Now you just import it all over at one time. It's all pre-sold. It's all good. It just kind of falls on deaf ears. But they did start their new Instagram and Twitter account for their professional films for the 35 millimeter and 120. So it makes me wonder if they're starting to have a little bit of a social media presence. Maybe at some point they'll realize that people are liking this stuff. But I think there's going to be a future for it. I mean, it's good to see Kodak bringing back some films. And I get lots of emails from people that are saying, hey, I'm kind of getting into this and this and that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've seen some of the film numbers start to rise at least a little bit. And hopefully that will kind of spur them to come up with some film and distribute some film.
I hear from people all the time that film seems to be on the rise to a certain degree. But it's all anecdotal, so I don't know. And
Yeah.
at the same time, the place where I go to get my film developed has cut back to 1 day a week where they're doing it, and they say we hardly see any. So I just don't know, and I'm
Yeah.
hopeful. I'm always extremely hopeful. I wish Fuji, I think it'll always exist to some extent, right? Even if it's
Yeah.
a sort of like alternative process, but yeah, I wonder. It's cool to see Kodak being because they're right up in my neck of the woods. They're
Yeah.
less so now than they used to be, and I've actually gone down and been to the headquarters and toured the Eastman House. It's really cool. That dude lived pretty well. He had a nice pad. It's nicer than my place. I would assume that Velvia's in it will have it for the foreseeable future at least.
I would hope so because I honestly would be lost without it. I mean it's a staple of what I use when I went on my trip I just got back from. I shot mostly Velvia, a little bit of Provia, and there were some scenes where I shot it on both Velvia and on Provia. And I saw the Provia slide first. I'm like, it looks okay. It's not. And I saw the Velvia. I'm like, that's really what it should look like.
Okay.
But there's also some where I shot on Provia, which was better than Velvia. But I would be lost without Velvia. I'd be lost without slide film. I guess I could shoot black and white. I guess I could shoot color neg for everything. But it's nice to have that balance. It's nice to have that option. So that's why I think it's awesome that you do all the promotion of film photography on your channel, and then I'm promoting it on my channel. So I think that's good to get the community going and all of that.
It's a weird little community though. That's the one thing that's become apparent to me recently is I had no idea. And I would say that by and large, I did the viewer submission stuff. By and large, and I don't know if you agree, but I feel that the quality of work coming out of people who deal exclusively in film. And this could just be because it's a smaller subset, but I think that it's an average of better work than you see coming out of digital. But it could just be the ubiquity of digital. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough, but it does seem like a lot of people that I know that shoot film, they do put more thought in the images because every click of the shutter, you're spending that little bit of money, where it makes you think just that little bit more about.
Or in your
what
case,
you're doing.
like that. Like
a lot
dinner.
It's
like a night out.
Yeah, that's one thing where I try not to think about that too much in the field. I'm just whipping film holders in there, shooting film. I'm like, I don't want to do the math on this one. But yeah, that's something I've definitely seen. I've also seen a lot of times where there's professional photographers that shoot digital for all their clients, but they'll shoot film for their own personal work, and they just put a little more effort into it just because of just the whole process. I think it's just because it's so much more process oriented. You don't have that instant gratification. Whatever you think is going to turn out probably isn't going to turn out the way you think, but something you didn't think would turn out turns out really good.
Yeah, there's
So
always
it's
that
always
moment
that kind
where
of,
you get an image that you didn't even think about or you didn't consider, and you take a step back and go, wow, that looks remarkable. I love it.
oh yeah, that's those are the fun moments, and that's one of the reasons why I like recording the film reveal videos, where I kind of
Sure.
look at the film for the first
And
time
you
on
hate
camera.
everything as you take
Oh
it
yeah,
out.
it's like not good, not good. Yeah,
This
yeah,
one might be
it's
all right. This could be okay.
oh
Terrible,
yeah.
terrible.
And then you look at it from all there, it's like that's not that bad. They're like, oh, this is a portfolio shot, So it's kind of weird the way that all changes. But yeah, I mean, it's there's just a different approach with film, which is nice. You feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm being productive. I feel like I'm doing something and producing something tangible, which is nice.
Sure. Yeah, physical object too, which is really, really cool. Although it does get difficult to store it
Yeah,
after
it
some
does.
time. I,
Yeah,
I ju-
I got a project where I gotta go through and take some of my old sheets of film because I want to get them drum scanned for doing some prints and stuff. And I was looking at how many of these archival boxes I filled with the film. I'm like, this is like really heavy. Like I didn't realize how much I had, and I'm not really well organized with it. So it's gonna be a challenge trying to find everything. But yeah, it's hard to store everything.
Where do you get your photos drum scanned, and do you have any recommendations as far as that's concerned?
So I got a guy that I've used since I started doing the drum skins. Really, really good guy. He's based out of Colorado. His name is James Beck, and his website is I think jamesbeckdigital.com. But yeah, he's very reasonable as far as the drum scan rates. It's expensive no matter where you go, but he's actually very reasonable. And he'll do whatever sort of custom scans you want, as far as if you want to have it scanned to a particular crop or stuff like scanning color negative is a little bit tricky because you don't quite know what it is. So, he'll have you like, send him like, here's what it should look like kind of file. But yeah, he does a really good job. I can actually send pictures to print after having him scan it, and I don't have to worry about like dust spots on there or anything like that. So it's all cleaned up, all nice.
If you were to give advice, and you said you get emails all the time from people, if you were to give advice to someone who's interested in trying out film photography and going, would you have any advice? Would you have anywhere to lead them to start it up?
That's a tricky one, just because I think everyone kind of learns differently. I like to learn just by getting the camera in my hands, throwing some film in there, just kind of making those mistakes. I find I learn best by my own mistakes. Obviously, the tough parts of the research as far as what camera to get in the first place when there's so many different cameras out there.
Sure.
But at least when I was kind of getting into large format, and the reason I got the Toyo 4x5 cameras many, many, many years ago, probably back in 2004, 2005, I was helping a photographer sell off all of his film on eBay, and he had medium format, he had large format, he had so much stuff. And part of the process of selling it is I'd have to go through and make sure everything worked. So I'd be like, going outside the 4x5 camera, clicking shutters, seeing how everything worked, and same with medium format cameras. So that's kind of how I got familiar with everything. And then when it came time to buy a large format camera, I was thinking that Toyo 4x5 was pretty cool, so I kind of tracked one of those down. But it really just depends. I mean, there's great resources, obviously, like YouTube, with information out there. You can search for whatever camera you're kind of researching.
It's a much better resource than it was when I initially started. At this point, there's a lot more content on it than it used to be.
Yeah, it's awesome how much stuff there is these days. I mean, you'll find like whatever exact camera you're looking for. And if you don't see that camera, get that camera, then make a video, put it out there so someone else can get the answer to whatever questions.
I made a camera video this morning, so spoilers. there's something coming out. It's the Pentax 6x7, which is pretty much all I've been shooting. It's just so good.
It's thing's built like a tank.
It is built like, honestly though, like compared to my 5D with the Pro, like an L lens on it, it's like, it's all relative, man. Cameras have gotten so big that it seems huge, but it's not that much more ungainly than like a modern DSLR, I don't think, or a ProRes DSLR. Do you have any other trips that you said you went to the was it Capitol Reef? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I went to Capitol Reef. I did that last spring, and I hope to make it back there again this spring, because when I was there, it was like raining every single day. A lot of the dirt roads were all closed, so I only got to see a small part of the park. But I do hope to make it back there again this year. Hope to do the backpacking trip that I was set to do last year, but had to call off because the weather sucked. So I hope to kind of do that and kind of continue to venture off the beaten path and find some other kind of cool little things here and there. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you could go anywhere that you haven't been, like, do you have anywhere? Like for me, I'd love to go to like Iceland would be a place, or Australia, somewhere like that. Do you have anywhere that'd be like a dream destination?
I really don't. It's kind of weird because I feel like once I kind of get to know a location, I just want to keep going back there again and
Sure.
again because it's kind of like you keep unlocking new things as you go there. And so I don't really have anything like international necessarily that I'd be excited about going to. Also because I don't quite know how I'd travel with everything that I have as far as all the gear. But yeah, I just kind of keep plugging away at the same areas and kind of keep exploring, finding other stuff. So no real dream locations other than just go back to some of my favorite spots and see what I can find there.
Zion and Death Valley.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever been to Olympic up in Washington?
I have.
Yeah.
I was there. I went up there.
You did
I think it was like
on that,
2012,
actually.
23. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I had. I brought my panorama camera. I had a Fuji panorama camera,
I
which
remember,
was kind of fun.
Yeah,
I should do something
that's a
with that.
spot I'd like to visit too. That one and whatchamacallit, the Gorge in Oregon. It's just the whole
Columbia River
Pacific
Gorge.
Northwest.
Yeah, and actually those areas are really cool. And it was definitely kind of out of my element in a good way because you kind of see everything all fresh, which was really awesome. But at the same time, you go to all these areas that I've seen before, and it's kind of like I would have to go back here so many different times until I kind of learn about all those little secret locations and all that. So yeah, it's a beautiful area. And then when my wife went up through the rainforest up there, it was awesome.
The
You could
Ho Rainforest, whatever it is.
yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm glad you went for that there. But yeah, so you just like hike along. There's like berry bushes along the way, but we were there in the rainforest. It didn't rain once, so we're a little disappointed by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it could
Most
be all
people might
right.
say it was good weather, but I'm like, it's a rainforest.
It's
now
fine.
it's a forest. Yeah. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. What's next? You got any plans for the channel that aren't immediately apparent, or just plugging away at doing the videos?
I think one of the things I want to do, at least for this year in particular, and this is actually something I'm probably going to record a video about today or tomorrow, sort of like New Year's resolution stuff. I want to start printing more. Like my whole thing is I've been plugging away at just kind of building up a portfolio with the images, but not really doing a heck of a lot with it other than the videos, other than like the books I do. But I really want to start getting into doing like prints and stuff. So there was a project that I promised a long time ago, like half a year ago, the print project where I was going to show the entire process from scanning the film to then having it drum scanned and doing the print and all that. So that's my goal to start working on that.
That would be just from a personal perspective. That would be a really useful video for me. I would watch it and glean with a little notepad and take notes and figure it out because I'm really interested in getting into drum scanning and printing some of my photos, and I just don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
I'd like to hang some stuff up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, because last year or year and a half ago, whatever, my wife and I kind of we had our house renovated. And so now we have all these kind of cool walls. I had some art lights put in to blast on the walls and stuff. There's nothing hanging on the walls right now. So I got to be putting up some photos and all that. So I think I'll make a project out of that as well, kind of showing the whole process about that. But other than that, it's going to be basically the video journals, all that. The trip from Death Valley is going to be a very interesting set of video journals with all the stuff that happened on that trip. So.
Without spoiling anything, did you get any good photos? Did you get anything good out of it?
I did. I'm actually really happy with what I got. There's also some shots that I messed up on, but those are the ones I could easily redo. I'm actually thinking about maybe heading back up there again this weekend to try to reshoot some of the ones I messed up on. But yeah, I got like 4 or 5 keeper shots out of the trip, which is really good.
That's
so
good.
I was happy with that. So all things considered. It's weird. You go on a trip, everything breaks, everything gets destroyed, but at the same time, you walk away from going, hey, it's not a bad trip.
Yeah.
As
long as you have a woodworking friend who can rebuild your Japanese 8x10 camera.
Yeah. As long as you got that, you got to have backups for stuff. But yeah, I was up and running again. But But yeah, I've had very, very few trips where bad things have happened, and many people might sort of consider that to be a bad thing, but I don't know. I had a good sense of humor about it, so I got some cool time lapse footage of my destroyed camera sitting on the salt flat. So it's kind of sad, but funny.
Traumatic.
Yeah.
I guess, is there anything else you wanted to touch on here? Anything else you wanted to bring up or talk about?
Not much that I can think of.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was great. I want to thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna splice this guy together and put it up on YouTube. Why don't you tell anybody who's watching this who doesn't know you how to find you, where you're at, social media, all that stuff.
Yeah, so my website is benhorne.com. It's just benhorne.com. I'm on Twitter at Ben Horne. I'm really active on Twitter. If you want to see pictures of things I break, Twitter is a great place, and cat pictures. Some of that happens too. And then I recently sort of begrudgingly signed up for Instagram, but it's kind of fun. I was kind of like putting it off for a long time, but I'm Ben Horne Photo on Instagram. So I've been having some fun with that lately, sort of posting some old favorite pictures on there. So that's been enjoyable so far as well.
I like Instagram. I will, of course, I will. You also have a 500px profile. I will.
I deleted every single picture, by the way.
Oh, okay, it's gone. Never mind then. So I'll link to all of your stuff down in the show notes. So anybody who's watching this, who by any chance knows my channel and doesn't know yours, can go over and check it out. But thank you, Ben. It's awesome. Like I said, you were one of the first channels I found when I was looking, and kind of an inspiration to pick up a 4x5 camera and try it out. So thank you for doing this, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
All right. Have a good night, man.
So there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, I'm not a professional interviewer, and Skype, caused a couple of problems along the line. But overall, I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was kind of a new and interesting thing for the channel. So I hope you guys liked it. If you did, of course, leave a question, a comment, anything you guys have. Thumb up the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Click that little bell so you get notifications. Thank you guys so much. More content coming early next week. See you soon.